joining. Thank you everyone for joining. And to begin, I will start with a little introduction about the Smile Outreach, which is us organizing this event. The Smile Outreach is a dedicated not-profit organization with a mission to empower and uplift communities across Nigeria, focusing on adolescent health, women's empowerment, and youth agency for social change. The Smile Outreach, for us at the Smile Outreach, we work to combat sexual grooming and cross-generational relationship by implementing sensitization program that empowers and embodying adolescents to resist sexual predators and recognize signs of sexual grooming. Additionally, we are working tirelessly to eradicate menstrual inequalities and child marriages and harmful traditional practices, education, support, and advocacy. Um, I'm sure you've seen some of our work online, but for our flagship programs and projects, we have Outreach Challenge, which is a proactive initiative dedicated to tackling the critical issues of sexual predators and manipul- sexual predators manipulating young individuals into unhealthy relationships. Battling Also, the second project and program is the Good Circle. The Good Circle is about battling sexual grooming, facilitating educations, and also eradicating period poverty taboos through the entry point of the Good Circle. That's the whole point of the program. We also have both spaces. This is designed to educate, empower young minds on sexual grooming and other things through a unique blend of play and learning. I'm sure you must have seen some of our work on our social media pages. And we have the last but definitely not the least, we have the youth lab. Um, I'm sure when we introduce our fellows, and I hope, yeah, I hope you have seen it one way or the other. So it's a youth agency which stands as a social change maker and also embodying adolescents to make informed and healthy relationship decisions. Today I think we've had the first Voices Against Violence monthly online conversation last month. We started with the launch of our Youth Lab fellowship. This month is in line with the International Women's Day with the theme Accelerate Action. The Voices Against Violence initiative is dedicated to driving social change by fostering community-led solution and empowering youth to deepen conversation, engagement, and sustain impactful conversation. We launched the monthly VAV discussion as a platform to continue advocacy and action. Yeah, that's like what we are doing right now, coming together to talk about issues that affect women and girls. So like I said, in commemoration of the International Women's Day, this Women's Day calls for collective efforts to dismantle systematic barriers and create a world where women, regardless of background, can thrive. While progress have been made, many, especially women from marginalized communities, continue to face significant challenges that limit their access to rights, opportunities, and resources. So the whole point of this event is that we seek to expose these challenges faced by women in both marginalized communities and urban areas, to promote inclusive advocacy and equip participants with actionable solutions to advocate for women's rights. Oh, I know I've been talking too much. Don't worry. We are getting to the good part where we introduce our guests. We have two wonderful women joining us today. And let me tell you something you don't know. The two of them are part of our 20 amazing women. So we have this launch that we did. We called it the magazine, where we celebrated 20 amazing women that are doing so much in the field for women and girls. And our two speakers today are one of those 20 amazing women, 25 amazing women, I mean. Thank you. So, moving straight to reading their bios. So, I will start with, in no particular order, I will start with Eniola Edum Ogulana. Sorry, I don't want to murder your name. I hope I did not murder your name. But Eniola, I'm going to read her bio now. Eniola is a dedicated program manager and advocate with over 5 years of experience in the humanitarian and development sectors, serving marginalized and underserved community. She's also passionate about child rights, gender equality, and mental health. She works to bridge gap in SDG 3, which is good health and well-being, and SDG 4, which is quality education, and SDG 5, which is gender equality. As the founder and team lead of Edu Monet Eniola Foundation, EME in capital letter Foundation, yeah. She has spearheaded multiple and impactful initiatives like Safe Teens Initiative, Don't Man Up, Speak Up, and also revolutionizing mental health in Africa. Through her work, she has advanced family planning awareness, GBV prevention, and social and psychosocial support for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. Eniola's effort has empowered children to protect themselves from child groomers, leading to the creation of child safeguarding jingles adopted by the Lagos State government. Her community-driven program has reached thousands of young people, including men, promoting gender equality and access to SRHR services. She holds a bachelor degree in sociology from the Ekiti State University and is an alumni of prestigious fellowship including YALI, RLC, Nigerian Mental Health Fellowship, Carrington Youth Fellowship Initiative, and Commonwealth Youth Gender and Equality Network. Can we use an emoji to celebrate this wonderful bio? I am sure that you know that you're about to hear and listen to something very, very impactful. Our second speaker, Rohama Iferi, is an award-winning gender equality activist. Wow. Consultant and a project manager with a legal background dedicated to advancing women's rights, fostering peace, and driving social change. With an LLB in law and over 7 years of experience, she has collaborated with diverse stakeholders to address critical issues like gender-based violence, human rights, and climate change. As the founder of Truly Verified Africa, she combats misinformation through media literacy and technology-driven solutions. Under its Youth Evolve pillar, she advocates for young women leadership and speaks out against sexual and gender-based violence. Her Sexual Offences Watch Observance project, has empowered over 5,000 young people to take action against gender-based violence. Wow. Her impact has earned her recognition from the Youth Africa Leadership Initiative, that's YALI, top 25 females in building by Galaxy for Peace, and 2024 one honoring by Enough is Enough Africa. She is certified in politics, leadership, and policies from SPPG. She served as a policy advisor for the Life After Abuse Foundation. She's also the author of 21 answers to the volunteer questions, equipping and inspiring change makers with the tool to make a difference in their community. Wow, I think we need to see emojis right now, because this bio is not just your regular bio that we see every day. So So the first question is, what does intersectionality in gender equality mean to you?
Hi
Okay.
everyone, my name is Ella. I am the comms director here at the Smile Outreach. Thank you for joining us. This is going to be an interesting conversation, and we're hoping that the internet doesn't, interrupt us and stop a lot of things. However, when we talk about intersectionality, we're looking at how different social factors, like in the broad terms, intersectionality has to do with race, has to do with gender, has to do with culture, has to do with social class, has to do with so many other things. Right now, it's expanding into religion, it's expanding into what else would I call it? I'm beginning to forget the words. But then these are just some of the factors that you consider when we talk about intersectionality. And all of these factors, different social factors put together, create a different experience for women. So intersectionality actually has to do with feminism in the broader sense. And I don't want to become a lecturer at this point, but then that's like the foundation of intersectionality. And it's actually a theory that was put together by Kimberly Crenshaw. She's a Black American feminist, and she is of the opinion that when all of these different factors come together in a conversation, then black women begin to have a different experience. So in simpler terms, it just means that a white woman or someone who lives in the West would have a different experience when it comes to all of the gender equality we talk about, or inequality when it comes to feminism. And now when I bring it back home, let's put it this way. When we're fighting for the rights of women back home in Nigeria, someone who is in Portugal, for example, cannot relate to the challenges that we're facing, because we have women who are in the rural areas, we have women who are in the urban areas, we have women who are living with disabilities, we have women who are educated and uneducated. And so you begin to see these different clusters giving everyone a different experience altogether. And so I will stop here because Eniola is here already. So please, over to
Yeah.
you, Eniola. Please let me not begin to teach. Thank you so much, Cynthia.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. I'm so sorry about my network. I didn't even know I was sold out until I was saying hello, hello, hello without any response.
Wow. Sorry about that. We all are facing network issue one way or the other. But yeah, you can go on. Or would you like me to repeat the question?
I got the question on intersectionality. I won't
Okay.
believe you already did justice to it already. However, I will just say or contribute one or two things to buttress whatever you must have said. So the intersectionality of gender equality is more like recognizing and addressing um, different form of discrimination and marginalization that women face when it comes to resources allocation. I'll give you an instance. There is this cultural practice that men are supposed to inherit properties or whatsoever it is from their parents, while women are entitled to any form of inheritance that the parents are leaving behind. So looking at this intersectionality now talks about how women face a lot of things and then how we need to address them. So in order to address this, the intersectionality of gender equality, we need to create a world whereby everybody, I mean women particularly, have access to opportunities. If you're bringing out work opportunities, you're allowing both men and women have access to this work opportunity. You're not saying, oh, I'm getting this role because I am a woman. You're not telling me, no, this is a male-dominated field. you're not supposed to, you don't belong here. And we've seen this played out differently when it comes to politics, when it comes to engineering, when it comes to some field in sciences. These are played out in different forms. Also, when it comes to resources allocation, like I mentioned earlier, like inheritance and the like, we've seen families inherit properties that belongs to a widow. They're saying because, oh, she's a widow, all her children are girls. She did not give them heir to the throne. Therefore, they can't give her her inheritance and all of that. And then we are looking at also rights, access to rights, like basic human rights. Generally, we've seen girls being or women being deprived of their rights when it comes to sexuality or sexual health. For instance, there is a lot of discrimination on women whenever they want to access contraceptives. But meanwhile, we have people go into schools or places or public places to share condoms to boys and men. They even have free access to condoms, whereby women cannot even freely have access to contraceptives like family planning. We have men say, okay, there is an event right there. Some men or boys have access to some of these resources, and girls or women don't even have access to education, which are basic, fundamental human rights.
Okay, so talking about fundamental human rights that girls are being deprived of. Imagine participating in leadership positions. Some women are being deprived of their right to participate in even in the home. Where people will tell you men are supposed to be the head of the house, and then they're supposed to make decisions for everybody. Either it's in favor or it's against whosoever it's members of that family. Women are not allowed to air their voices. And looking at this intersectionality, it is us looking at giving equal access, addressing these issues from cultural context, from religious context, from social context as well. So the intersectionality basically is more like addressing these issues. Thank you. I don't know.
Yeah, no, we can hear you. Thank you so much for sharing. I think to a point you're already entering the second question. Um, I think just to take a few of what you said, a lot of women are like going through. Sometimes you wake up and you wonder. Let me just say me. Sometimes I wake up and I say, "Why am I a woman?" Then I take it back and be like, "Oh, I am a woman because things like that." Because when you come to this world, there are certain things that you will see and you'll be like, "Why is this happening to just our gender?" And thank you, Ella, for explaining it. No, you were not lecture. It was more than a lecture you're giving us. And I understood the fact that a lot of women in different places go through different kinds of gender inequality. So thank you so much for sharing that. Oh, so going to the second question, Eniola, what are the key barriers preventing women in marginalized communities and even those in urban areas from accessing their rights? Because definitely we are all women at the end of the day, just that you have women with different kinds of discrimination, different kinds of issues. So what do you think are the key barriers that are preventing women generally, both those in the marginalized area and also those in the urban area? Thank you.
Okay, I think the barriers that prevent women from accessing their rights mainly has to do with sociocultural norms. Looking at some harmful cultural norms that restrict women from their bodily autonomy and even access resources. I cited an example earlier where I said women cannot even freely walk into any facility, into any health facility to access their health rights, either for family planning or abortion rights or any of these things. It is just so sad that our culture is not helping. And even to look at some harmful widowhood practice, some of these practices like female genital mutilation, harmful cultural practices like female genital mutilation also restricts women from expressing sexual rights. Imagine somebody from somewhere in having the opinion that, oh, we need to start cutting out clitoris of women or girls because we don't want them to enjoy sex, because we don't want them to be promiscuous. How can you just assume that having a clitoris will make me promiscuous? It's like saying that you want to cut out the scrotum of a man because that will make him to philander around and all of those things. It is just so sad because some of these practices are deeply entrenched in some harmful cultures. Also, we're looking at economic inequality is another aspect we need to look at. Should I say gender inequality thrives in it's a power play kind of that actually thrives in economic inequality, in the sense that there is usually somebody that has the power, and then the victim now does not have that economic power, either economic power or does not have a voice to stand for itself. In the place of employment now, when women are looking for employment opportunities, they are subjected to sexual harassment. Even students in schools are subjected to sex for grade. And then women that are actually into marriages, their partner tells them, oh, if I'm your husband and the head of this house, I don't want you to work, I want you to become a full housewife, then I provide for you. So in the situation whereby there is a power play, it affects women from expressing their right, because you've deprived them of their economic rights. You've deprived them of what makes them feminine, what makes them human now, that they won't be able to take care of themselves. So there is this I think economic inequality also affects women. And I think lack of representation of women when it comes to decision making, when it comes to politics, also affects women. If you look at the National Assembly now, out of 109 policy makers, we have just 4 women representing the general population of women in Nigeria. And it is just so sad that when they are to make important decisions that has to do with women, we have lesser voice. As a matter of fact, we have no voice at all. Because what is the proportion of 104 or 105 to 4 to just number 4? It is just so sad, because when 4 people are trying to share experiences of women, they are trying to share what women face health-wise, economic-wise, family-wise, and even social stigmatization and all that. The 104 men cannot relate with it, because it has nothing to do with them. They can't even relate with our regular struggles, our daily struggles. So the proportion of women in decision-making tables is nothing to write home about. Even in families where we have women that stand up for themselves, where we have women that speak, that try to air their voices, they are rather seen as aggressive. They are rather seen as not submissive. They are rather seen as stubborn. And it is just so sad, because how can a woman that is trying to make her voice heard is being subjected to silence and then stigmatization, being called all forms of name and labeling in the family or even in the society at large? And then another barrier that prevents women from accessing their rights is harassment. Sexual harassment at different levels. I would like us to use the case study of Senator Natasha Imadi. She said allegedly she's been sexually harassed by the Senate president, and we've seen women themselves come out to say no, because she's a senator, nobody can harass her. We've seen men on the counterpart to say, oh, who are you? You have 6 children for different men. You are a nobody. This all form of derogatory statements being made. Why? All because of what? She's trying to air her voice. She's trying to share her experiences, and then they are subjecting her to further experience, bringing this situation down to our own local reality, where there is a girl or a woman in a local community that has just been raped or sexually assaulted. She walks into a police station to report the case, and then the policeman is telling her, what did you wear there? In the case of domestic violence, the policeman is telling her, madam, you too, wait till you tell your husband when your husband slap you. You know, this should I say stigmatization, the fear of speaking up, and even when you eventually speak up, who will believe you? A lot of people will rather stand with the perpetrator rather than see from your own POV or your own lens. Makes women to kind of like stay in their shell and rather not speak up at all. I think some of these sociocultural factors affect women from accessing their rights or even speaking up against inequalities or violence against women. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. It does. Yeah, it does. There are a lot of barriers. Like you said, when you actually even speak up, who would believe you? Like, you even get more hits than the original, like how it started. Like, if you're doing how it started and how it's going, you will see that you are also on the failing side, and you begin to feel like, oh, why did I even come out to talk about what I am facing? But nevertheless, we are advocates. We have to keep showing up. We have to keep speaking out, because if we don't do it for our fellow women, I don't know who else would do it for us. So before I go to the next question, I don't know, there's another speaker here. Bijemi, would you have anything to pitch in?
I absolutely love all that Eniola has talked about. Absolutely. I find that we know these barriers, but somehow we are enabling it. Sometimes not intentionally, or sometimes because we are succumbing to societal nuances. And I'm saying this because these barriers did not just appear. They are rooted in years of silence, in years of inequality, in years of structures that were built, and they were built without us in mind. For example, period poverty. The fact that these period products are so expensive, the average woman cannot even afford them for something that happens to them every month. The most natural thing in the world, if you ask me. We've met girls who miss school every month because they feel pressured into unhealthy relationships just to get basic supplies. And then there's grooming in plain sight. You've mentioned, Eniola mentioned the Natasha case. But let's talk about children, because Natasha is popular. So she has a platform, to be honest. People can hear her. Some people are siding her. Some people are against her. But can we also talk about those that probably no one will ever hear, or the ones that are so sure that if they eventually speak up, it would not be attended to? It's not unusual, especially in the economic justifications, religious reasons, traditional reasons. And then you find out that you're not just fighting against the fact that the act is bad, you're fighting against systems. You're fighting against sometimes even the government. This is what I've noticed as one of the biggest barriers. It is why this fight looks like it's going to go on forever. But we're also hopeful when we have people like Eniola join platforms like this, already contributing our voice. It gives us hope. It gives me that fire to continue in this work as well, and every other woman or man in this space. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Like that's why the question was in two phase, both for marginalized and those in urban area. You see that no matter where you are, one way or the other, this discrimination, this injustice locates you as a woman. And like you said, we'll keep adding our own voice. We'll keep, how they say, put fuel in the fire or something. It's a long run, it's a long journey, but we will get there. Moving to the next question. I'm going to ask this question sort of in a two-way. So the question is, how can gender advocacy um, efforts become more inclusive? And I also want you to put it in in line with also using social media in advocating for the underrepresented voices, like what Bidemi said. Natasha has a platform. What about what about women without platform? What about women in those areas where nobody can see them? So how can gender advocacy efforts become more inclusive, also including social media? Thank you. And I think you can.
All right. Thank you for that question. I think before anything at all, before any advocacy at all, it is very important that we look inward. You know, there is this popular saying that change begins with you, it begins with me. And when I'm talking about begins with you and me, we are looking inward now into the family. There is this general should I say opinion about the society according to sociologists. They say family is the primary foundation of every society. This is to say each and every one of us belong to a family, and whatever knowledge or no, should I say opinion we form, it is from our initial family before we then socialize. So it is very important that sorry, it is very important that our advocacy efforts start from within. Parents need to do well by socializing both their female child and their male child well. You don't groom the girl child for the male child. What do I mean in this instance? You don't always tell the girl child, oh, you're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be that. When you get married, is this how you'll be doing and all of that. You don't prepare the mind of, you don't train a girl child like an object that is subject to something, and then you train a male child like a leader. It is important that you train both male and female child like leaders, because in the situation whereby you're giving out some gender roles, so this role is supposed to be for the girl child, that is for the male child. What happened in a situation or in a family whereby all the children, let's say the woman has 8 children, they are all male, will you learn how to cook? None of them will learn how to clean the house. None of them will learn how to be responsible for their siblings. What happens to that? So this is to tell you that there are some, should I say, training or societal grooming or expectations that shouldn't even exist to begin with. We are to begin advocacy and train our children equally, and then bringing it, graduating outside of the family now into religious institutions where people get to socialize in schools and all that. I think it is very important that the way school take up gender roles is also looked into. We stop saying, oh, during social studies or civic education, we stop saying mothers are supposed to be cooking while fathers provide for the house. Mothers.
Okay, I think network again. If you can hear me and you're like, I think you've gone off. Um, all right. So, before she joins us, Peter, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Hi, Cynthia. You're going to pay me for this, but I'm happy to
Oh,
chime in.
thank you.
Um, I think for us, we need to start by shifting mindset, and I also feel like that's what Eniola is also talking about, starting from our very families. Um, Advocacy is not for the select few. It's not for the educated. It's not for the urban or the loudest voices in the room. Advocacy is for those who do not have voices, and we need to let them know they do have a voice, and we are happy to be the shoulders and the platforms they need to get their voice heard. So, inclusive advocacy for me is access. It's language, it's cultural relevance, it's proximity to the people we are trying to reach. So, we ask ourselves, if a girl in a rural school or a woman in prison. I'm sorry, please confirm if you can hear me because my Wi-Fi is very, very spotty. Um,
Yes, I
um,
can.
yeah, what was I saying again? I can't. Okay, if there's a girl in a rural school or a woman in prison, and that person cannot relate to our message, then are we really advocating? Are we even reaching them? Do they even know what we are talking about? The girls that are facing most of the problems that we are trying to advocate for don't even have access to phones. We are having these conversations here because most of us here can understand what's going on. Everyone here is educated to a point. So to some extent, although we might be facing our troubles and still fighting these systems, but to some extent we know what we need to do. So how can we make gender advocacy more inclusive? We localize this message, we translate, we contextualize, we take the message to these people. We take our comics, for example, or flashcards, and this is me talking about Smile Outreach as a case study. We are not afraid. We are not afraid to pick one or two things just so that message is passed across. We are not afraid to reflect the customs of the people or speak to a local leader or a woman leader in a community, for example, to get her to see our side. Because we know that sometimes these people have power in their own little village. You'll be surprised that one word from one mama has solved our problem, right? And then we equip, we don't just educate. We actually equip them and allow them to practice what it means to own their own voice, to begin to speak out. And then I think something else we can do is also center the unheard. I'm gonna say something, and it's just an unpopular opinion. So when we are celebrating people, we tend to celebrate people that are already popular and already doing mighty things, already having a platform. How about we recognize maybe a traditional leader or a community leader somewhere who finally in the light, and we give them and say, hey, look at 25 community leaders found in 10 states or in Nigeria that are now advocating for girls' rights, women's rights in these villages. And then people actually seeing these faces and these people behind the structures, and you having a non-profit, for example, and saying that this is what you do. Can we also use non-traditional tools? And it's making it very difficult for people that actually need the help to understand what we are talking about. So to me, this is what inclusivity means. We simplify things. We take the message to the people. We don't just educate. We say it in their language so they can truly assimilate what we're saying and take on the change because it makes sense to them. I'm going to stop here, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think you shared a lot, and for me, I think that's one of the things with they call it social and behavioral change techniques. Sometimes I think I learned it at one workshop. When you go to community, ensure that before you even get to that community, know how to communicate with them. You cannot be going to a community where they don't know English and be taking the message in English. It's you will go and be frustrated. So that you will not be frustrated, do your research and be sure of what you are doing. And I love the point you made about the whole making it culturally, making it acceptable, making it something that if anybody anywhere, once they pick it up or once they hear it, they can relate, they can work with it, they can run with it, and things like that. And also for women that we don't even see, because there are a lot of women in that community doing a lot. I've seen many community engagement, and when you hear some women will even say, oh, they don't even know that what they are doing is advocating for gender equality, until like you say it in a way that they can understand. So I totally understand. I'm sure that everybody on this call understands what you are trying to do. And so the last question, and Eniola is off. I can't see how what's supposed to be about how various organization has I don't BJ me, I think you went back to being a listener. I wanted you to highlight how the Smile Outreach has oh, she's off. Okay, everyone. Ella, can you hear me? So I don't feel like I'm just the only one
Yes,
talking.
I'm here. I can hear you. What's your question?
Okay, the question was supposed to be how your organization. So now I'm going to use the Smile Outreach. How your organization has worked to breaking down this barrier, these systematic barriers that is should I say that is stopping or blocking gender equality in various communities and areas. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. And I believe Bidemi has already sort of laid some emphasis on some certain ways in
Yeah.
which we already do that. So I'm just going to speak to some of the things she mentioned. So through our projects, which are very revolutionary, and we always ensure that we're able to I don't want to use the same word ensure, but we always ensure that our projects are sustainable, right? And it's not a one-time engagement with the kids that we reach out to. So we reach out to a lot of kids, adolescents, both boys and girls. But then when it comes to gender, equality and how we're able to sort of, fight or mitigate all of these different factors that come together to give these girls a different experience when we talk about intersectionality. Something that Bidemi mentioned is having to create resources in the language they understand, right? Having to bring it down to their level, and not considering, various industry jargon. And so one thing we do well, or one thing one of our projects that really, really emphasizes on this is the Hand to Mind project, where we go around, secondary schools, IDP camps, orphanages, and anywhere we have adolescents, to basically educate them about cross-generational sexual relationships, about sexual grooming. And we use our flashcards. We created flashcards and comics. And so we use this as an educational resource to bring the information to them. So instead of having to use the ambiguous resources that are out there, we have broken down these resources and made it more interactive, made it more easier for them to get it. And a lot of these girls, in fact, this month we had our multi-state campaign where we went around about 6 states in Nigeria, educating girls in different schools and places about cross-generational sexual relationships. As of today, we have reached 3,333 from our goal of 5,000. And we hear stories like, I thought it's a normal thing, like having to be groomed by an older person. And for those of you who do not know what cross-generational sexual relationships is, it's basically the art of an adult grooming a younger person before they actually now come to have the whole abuse happens. So there is a process that this takes before it happens, and that process is the grooming part of it. And a lot of people don't know that this even exists, and so how we're able to fight that is to bring knowledge to them at the level in which we can do this. They can learn. The other way is through the Good Cycle project, which Cynthia already mentioned. And through our Good Cycle project, basically we're educating girls about period poverty and menstrual hygiene. And when it comes to that, we help them understand that having your period as a woman is not a bad thing, and it does not make you less of a person, because these are some of the stereotypes and the myths that are being passed around in Africa or in the world generally. So breaking the information to them at their level, getting it to them at where they are, at the point at which they can understand, that's one way we have been able to break some of the systemic barriers through our project. So I hope this answers your question. I'll stop talking. Thank you.
Oh, please, we would like to hear your voice more, please. Thank you so much. It actually answers the question, and it even went further to the sustainability part of it, because most times some organizations do not understand that it's not just about doing the project. It's not just about, is there a sustainability plan for whatever advocacy you are going for? And we can see that at the Smile Outreach, the sustainability plan is clear and it's achievable and all. And congrats to the campaign and the numbers that we have right now. We're hoping to have more. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for joining us for this VAV monthly in commemoration of the International Women's Day. I'm sure that the section, we all know it has been insightful from different speakers and from different comments that were given. I hope we actually take something out of it. I hope we advocate more. Like we've said before, it's not time to say, oh, nobody's seeing me, nobody's hearing me, I should stop. No. We have to keep advocating. We have to keep fighting for our rights, because like I said before, if we don't do it, this man will not do it for us. We have to do it for ourselves. Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining, and like I said, we are the Smile Outreach. If you are not following us yet, we are already on Twitter, so give us a follow. On Instagram, LinkedIn, just search the Smile Outreach and you will see us. On Substack, the Smile Outreach, and you can subscribe to our Substack to have more updates of what we've been doing, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, because why not? Thank you once again for joining the conversation. We look forward to the next conversation next month. And maybe you might be our guest, maybe you might be the speaker next time. So until next time, I am Ume Cynthia Nina, Communications Associate for the Smile Outreach. Thank you.